Afternoon, welcome to the National Festival of Making. After 3 years, we're back in Blackburn.
Yes!
We're finishing up today with Keith Brymer-Jones, and we're just going to have a chat. We've not planned much. He's not here because of his book.
No.
But I've read most of his book this week. Boy in a China Shop came out.
Yeah, in February. Yeah, this year. Yeah.
And one of the first things I'm on page 3.
Well done.
No, I've gone a bit further.
Oh, good. Yeah, great.
And on page 3, it starts like somebody describing sex. We're in a cathedral, aren't we? Can we say sex? I suppose you can, can't you?
Can, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm just going to read a few words from it. All this I do instinctively, as naturally as I breathe. My hands automatically move into the correct position. We did have some music for this, but I think...
Yeah.
Come on! Shall we start again?
Yeah.
What's wrong, technical man running down here? Oh, you've let us down.
Hang on. Here he comes.
Come on.
You'll like this bit. It's good. We've only just thought of doing it. He thought of it.
Yeah. And it was... maybe it's because we're in a cathedral that it stopped working.
Yeah, I think so.
Somebody from above has stopped us.
Yeah.
Oh, Ed's phone's locked. You'll get it when the music comes on. You'll get the gag, but it won't be quite as good as it would have been if they hadn't completely messed up.
Yeah, we've kind of lost the...
Yeah. Should we forget this one? I think we'll forget it.
We've kind of lost the...
Anyway,
we've kind of lost the moment, haven't we?
We've kind of lost the moment, but I will read a few words. The track was going to be Je t'aime, like a porn movie track.
Maybe I'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right, ready?
All this I do instinctively, as naturally as I breathe. My hands automatically move into the correct position, making minute adjustments when and where they are required, adding a little water here and there, so my hands glide across the surface. It's all about the lightness of touch, making just enough contact with the clay as it spins around, so it will obediently follow where I direct it. It's extremely tactile, a sensual experience, and I don't mind admitting I'm addicted to it. The connection is so profound. It's like the clay is an extension of me. And then you say, it's all over in a flash.
Well, that's kind of my sexual experience, really, but there you go.
So tell us about your relationship with clay.
Oh, well, I mean, it's been a companion. Okay, cut the music. Didn't work very well, did it? Never mind. It's been a companion for all my adult life. Yeah, I mean, the first piece of clay I touched was at the age of 11. I was given it by my art teacher, Mr. Mortman. We walked into the art room, as you do, and there was a lump of clay on everyone's workbench. Half the class started a clay fight, and the other half started making something with the clay, and I was in the latter. And it was like an epiphany moment. It was like a religious calling. Yeah. And
what was your first big break then? When you just take us through like the progression from school to doing pottery that you were getting paid to do to starting on your own. And
well, so some of you will be old enough to remember careers teachers, careers officers. Yeah, and you sit before them in your sixth form or fifth form or whatever. Right, what do you want to do, Keith? British Telecom, Gas Board or Police. That was my lot. I said, well, I actually want to be a potter. And she literally said, well, you're on your own there. I haven't got a clue what you're talking about. And I put an advert in Ceramic Review, which is an amazing magazine. It's been running for years. And I got a job in a pottery just outside London called Harefield Pottery as a clay boy. sweeping the floor, shoveling the
Not
clay.
a playboy.
No, not a playboy. Not then.
Okay.
Later.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's how it all started. Yeah. And for me at the time, I didn't realise, but this pottery was just amazing. We had all different types of kilns. We even made our own clay recipe, our own clay body, and it was a fantastic place to learn. And it was like an old-fashioned apprenticeship. Yeah, it was amazing.
And you're a North London boy.
North Barnet lad.
Born and bred.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we met a long time ago, but we frequented the same clubs. I moved to London from here, from Blackburn in 1979.
Yeah.
I'm 4 years older than you.
Yeah.
But the turn of the 80s of the post-punk, the Blitz Club in London.
That's it.
Kensington Market, where Geraldine, my good lady, started.
Yeah.
From up here, moved down there as well. Tell us about, that London was a very different place, wasn't it?
Well, it was. There was no internet. Obviously, it was quite simple, really. And there was still kind of, there were certain parts of London that were still bomb damage. You go down to the Thames, and there was swathes of wasteland, but there was a kind of an edginess to it. The live music scene was incredible and relatively cheap. I think the first proper band I went to see was Susie and the Banshees at the Hammersmith Ballet. It was £3.50. I know everything's relative, but it was relatively cheap, and it was an incredible explosion of youth culture, really.
Yeah, I mean, London had lost around about 25% of its population in 1980 from its. I think its height of population was 50 something.
Right.
And so there was, you were able to live in squats.
Absolutely.
Property was dirt cheap.
Yeah.
It was, you could buy a 3-bedroom house for £20,000, but you could squat anywhere you liked, and it was just a place of opportunity for young people, and it became a magnet, didn't it?
It did. Yeah. It was an incredible place, and I mean, most of my friends lived in squats. And they were really well organised squats. They weren't, ramshackle places. They were really well organised. It was a fantastic place, yeah.
And tell us about, one of the things in the book, quoting you, it said, "Potter by day, rock star by night." Tell us about that, your pottery day. And
right, well.
And then because the other thing that you've done, again, a bit like myself, is you're a 5 a.m. riser, aren't you?
Yes.
And you work till it's sleep time.
Yeah, that's it.
And my memories of starting out with Geraldine were getting up crack of dawn, sorting out second-hand clothes, putting up band posters, because I was in a band as well, all around, pasting them up on your own.
Yeah, that's it.
You've got that.
Oh, exactly that. Yeah. So up at 5. Out of the house by 5:30, get the 13 bus down to Marylebone, Baker Street, out to Harefield, walk 2.5 miles down the canal. It was like a bloody Hovis advert, I tell you. 2.5 miles down the canal, and start working around about 8:30. Then after work, go to wherever the sound check was for that particular night and with the band, do the gig, pack up 11, 12 o'clock, get the last train home. And I remember, you can only do this when you're young, but I remember sort of getting in at about 2 o'clock in the morning and quantifying, well, I've got 3 hours sleep. That's all right. I need to get up at 5. I'll be all right with that. I'll have a cup of tea, go to bed, and that's what you did, and it was fine. And so the band and the pottery came.
What was the name of the band?
Oh, bloody hell! The Wigs.
The Wigs.
Yeah, there's a skinnier version of me on YouTube. 6 o'clock shuffle was our big thing, which we filmed in Hampstead, a video, and there I am.
What would you describe the music as?
Kind of post-punk kind of,
psychobilly,
that kind of thing. Loud, and sometimes in tune.
And what was your, could you imagine of being a rock star, or was it still pottery that was driving?
No, it was always pottery. That was, in the sixth form, I used to bunk off school and go to the V&A museum. That was what I used to do. I absolutely was obsessed with ceramics. Yeah.
But what created that obsession? What did it?
Now looking back at it, it was kind of blindingly obvious that I got into ceramics because I'm dyslexic. And I don't know whether many of you know, but if you're dyslexic, you have a much better affinity with shape, form, and volume. And I think that's what the epiphany moment was when I touched the clay. I literally touched the clay, and I thought, this material is just fantastic. I mean, I'm welling up now, but it's fantastic because you can create a three-dimensional object with your hands with this clay, and that, I think it was the connection with the dyslexia and the clay material itself.
You also talk about, we're not making light of this, but you talk about OCD as well in the book quite a lot. And,
yes.
And one of the things that was amusing in a way was when you talk about jumping forward to when you got your first order, which I can't from Heels on Tottenham Court Road.
That's right, yeah.
And the lady there, the buyer, ordered 300 or
300 bowls. Yeah, she said, "Oh, do you think you could possibly make 300 bowls?" And I'd had this traditional sort of traditional throwing sort of training, and I mean, if I told you I can throw about 800 to 900 pots a day on the wheel. So 300.
And you say in it that you were totally confident that every single one would be exactly the same, and you could do that many in a day.
Yeah.
I mean, is that, as your condition helped?
Oh, it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Oh, I highly recommend it. OCD, it's fantastic. Yeah. No, because when you're a production thrower, or you're doing anything in that kind of production, whether you're working in fabric or whatever, it's everything has to be ordered. It has to be on the in my studio. All the pots, if I'm throwing 1,000 pots at any one time, they're all very, very ordered, because for the simple reason you can count them easier. If you go 3 across and 9 down, that's 27. I think it is, 27, and you can quickly make sure that you've done enough work. So the OCD was quite handy, yeah.
And who would you name as your biggest? Your influence. Is there a potter that?
Yeah. So back in the day, I think I was about 13, 14, and I think it was Ditchling Museum when I saw this grainy black and white film of a guy called Isaac Button. I know, it's a brilliant name, isn't it? And he used to throw with a shirt and tie on, flat cap, and you can roll it, not the je t'aime. And there he is, and it was always said by him, he never walked out of a pub the same day he walked into it. But he was a human dynamo, and he resided in Soil Hill, which is sort of the Midlands. But it was said that he could throw a ton of clay a day, and when I first saw this video at the age of about 13, 14, it was the fact that his relationship with the clay itself. He worked with the clay with such ease, and it came across on this really grainy film. And there he is, and he's happy as Larry with his flat cap on, throwing with his smoking a pipe, and it's just the ease the way he works with the clay, and that, for me, there was something that really ignited an amazing enthusiasm for the substance itself.
So if anybody wants to watch this film, you just look up Isaac Button on YouTube, and there's part 1 and part 2, I think.
There is,
So there's like 20 minutes of it. We're not going to play 20 minutes of it. There's a Speaking to Robert Elms, who's a Radio London presenter.
I did Listed London last week.
So we've both done this thing called Listed Londoner, and one of the questions that you get asked is, what's your favourite building in London? And we both chose the same one.
The Royal Festival Hall.
Yeah. So I'm interested why you chose it.
Well, because I think, for me, it ticks all the boxes. The design of the building is very simple. And it's classic of that particular era, 1951, 52. It's when British design was in its modern sense, if you like, in its infancy. It was very naive, but it was fantastic, and the fact that the building is welcoming for anyone. It's called the People's Palace, and anyone can walk in. They still can't pull a pint very well in the bar there, but never mind. But anyone is welcome in there, and it's just the architecture, the open space once you're inside the building, and I just love it. It's incredibly inclusive. Yeah.
If we go on to telly, because I think a lot of people, you're that man off of the telly, aren't you?
Am I? What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if we go back to when did we both do that? What was that trade show called? I forgot.
Top Drawer.
Top Drawer
in Olympia,
yeah.
I think
in
it
Olympia,
was. Yeah.
And I remember that was the first time we really chatted a lot, and it was in the early days of my kids who working within Hemingway Design.
Yeah.
And you were there next to them, and
yeah.
And I always remember, I've got this guy they come home, they've got this guy next to us, he's a potter. He can half talk, he should be on television. and then how many years later?
Yeah, 6, 7 years later.
So how come with a gob like yours it took so long?
Yeah. Yeah, well, the whole thing came about, and this is basically what the book's about. We all have it. We all have the algorithm of life. We all go through life, and we all have these choices. These sliding door moments, or people that you once knew years ago, and you then meet up with them years down the lane in a completely different situation. And that's basically what the book's about. So I did this bloody stupid video with me dressed as Adele, singing an Adele song. Some of you may have seen it, obviously. And the whole thing just came about because my business partner, who's devoid of any cultural sort of knowledge whatsoever, I'm even colourblind, sake. He used to say to me. He phoned me up one day and he said, "Have you ever heard of a singer called Adele?" And I said, yes, I've heard of her, yeah. "Well, she's rather good. Well, she's done this really surreal video called Rolling in the Deep. And, my aunt has a house exactly like that in Norfolk. We could go and film you and do this spoof." So we did this thing up in this place called Brent Ely. One of those houses where the village is named after the house. I mean, huge, 35-bedroom thing. Anyway, we rock up and we do this video. It goes viral. And we at the time were working with this billionaire woman over in America who owned about 100 shopping malls. And we were thinking of rolling out KBJ stores in all these high-end shopping malls. And she just happened to be friendly with a guy called Rich McKerrow, who's one of the head honchos of Love Productions. So this is 6, 7 years ago. He's over there selling the bake-off to various networks in America. They meet up for some brunch meeting thing, whatever they do in America, I don't know. And he said, I'm looking for the next sort of bake-off. And she pipes up and said, "Well, I'm working with this cross-dressing nutter potter at the moment, and this toff, and they've done this video of Adele." And he goes back to the hotel room, literally in America, loves it, picks the phone up, phones me from America and says, "Oi, do you want to be a judge on this new program I'm going to put together?" I mean, random. And what I love about the story is he didn't know anything about me as a potter. He didn't even know I could do pottery. He just loved the fact that I was in a dress dressed as Adele. I mean, life is, quite random like that, and that's how it all came about.
Yeah, I mean, you don't need marketing campaigns. You don't need PR. Do you? Just do something that you feel is fun and right.
Really honest and passionate about whatever you do, and that exudes out into the world without sounding like a hippie nightmare. But it does. Your passion and your belief in something. It's catching. It's fantastic. It's magnetic. I mean, I've been with you this afternoon, and it's been wonderful. It's been fantastic to see your passion for this town and what's going on with this event. It's just brilliant. Yeah.
So just now, you talked about those days of potter by day, rock star by night, and you were working in Harefield.
Yeah.
When did you break away, and how did you break away from working to having your own label?
So back in the day, I'm there at Harefield. I've started making with my two bosses. They've deemed me good enough to start production throwing with them, and then they pipe up and say they're moving to Scotland, not just Scotland, but Tain, which is 20 miles north of Inverness, for God's sake, and I certainly didn't want to go. I was still in the band at the time. I certainly didn't want to go up to Scotland, so I set up my own studio in Highgate in North London. And that's when I started making for, for retailers.
Okay, so
yeah.
So I run through Highgate regularly, and you can't imagine anybody starting a business in Highgate. It's
Yeah.
like one of the most expensive bits of real estate in the world.
Yeah, yeah.
So how did you set up in
Well,
Highgate?
I was going out with a girl at the time, and her family had a shop on Archway Road, and they knew this landlord very well, Richardson's of Highgate. Do you remember? It was an old antiquated furniture shop, always looked closed, but he was
The one on the main road.
That's right,
near the tube station.
That's it.
I know exactly.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. Well, at the back of that was a stables, and there were various kind of units, empty units, and so I started my pottery there, and that's where it all started from.
And how did you employ people? How did you?
So back in the day, so I think the largest order I ever made was for Habitat back in the day. It's funny. So there I am. I've been designing and making for Habitat for three or 4 years. Yeah, I know we haven't got much time. 3 or 4 years. I'm sitting in their foyer because I've just designed this breakfast range with them. It was called the Brooks range. It's the grey area here on my head, and I was waiting to find out whether they'd gone for this range. And a lovely guy called Graham Meeson, who was the head of design and merchandising then, came through the swing doors, laughing his head off, guffawing, really laughing. And I said, have they gone for the range? Are they going to do it? He said, Keith, have you seen the numbers you're going to have to produce? And I rushed back to the workshop. This is before PCs, before computers really, and my fax machine was going overdrive with Habitat France, Italy, Belgium, and it roughly was about 16,000 pieces, which I managed to do in about 3 months. And by that time, that was the kind of
on your own,
on my own, yeah. So I had about 5 or 6 people working for me.
Yeah.
But I literally used to get in the morning around about 5, half 5, sit on the wheel and bark orders at people. They were either packing kilns or packing stuff into boxes, but I was the one that was throwing it all. And so I would throw whilst people would feed me cake and cups of tea, basically, all day. Yeah.
And now, so where's your product sold now? How's it manufactured? What's your life consist of?
So moving swiftly on, late 90s, it was clear for me back then the kind of market that I was in. The margin for handmade ceramics just really wasn't there. And I remember I'd been working with Laura Ashley for about 4 or 5 years on various projects and things. And I remember this buyer coming in, and she plonked this mug down, god-awful mug from China, and said, if you can make that for £1, you're still in business. I literally don't think I even put the kettle on. It was pointless even discussing it. And so my whole business had to change, and that's when I devised the word range, which I now sell into about 40 countries around the world. There's about 3,000 or 4,000 independents in the UK that sell it, and we now produce that. I have a studio in Whitstable in Kent, and I have another studio in China. And we produce mainly out of China, and it's not because it's cheap. The clue is in the name, China, as in China. They have an incredible history of ceramics. Now, if I was possibly making mobile phones, dare I say, or cuddly toys, and I was producing out of China just for cost, I might have an issue with that. But ceramic and the history of ceramic through China is just incredible. They were firing and doing alchemy with ceramics about 1,000 years way before we were, way before Josiah Wedgwood. And the Chinese porcelain is second to none. It's absolutely fantastic. So I go over to China, and my nickname in the factory, because I literally work on the factory floor when I go over there, my nickname, they're very literal, the Chinese, is, "Hey, you big fat white hairy gorilla." That's what they call me, yeah. They're obsessed with hair, body hair, because they don't really have any. So they're constantly playing with my chest hair on the factory floor. Yeah, getting their mobile phones out. "Hey, there's a gorilla in the factory." Yeah, Don't go over there feeling self-conscious. Yeah.
So wrapping up.
Yeah.
Wrapping up. You moved out of London to Whitstable at how long ago? I know you don't live there now.
No, year 2000. I moved out.
And what was the reason for that?
Basically, because house prices were really cheap. And
Yeah.
and I, being a craftsman, couldn't really afford to live in London, so moved out to Whitstable, and now I reside in Margate, which,
Yeah.
as you know,
Yeah.
has gone up through the roof.
Yeah, because
Yeah,
I remember when I think we started, Hemingway started working in Margate in 2009, and
yeah,
you moved in 2014 there, didn't
that's
you?
it. Yeah,
And
yeah.
that was there's
And
a
we met each other in an Indian restaurant, didn't we?
that was
Yeah,
it. Yeah,
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 yeah. That's it.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And but that was a
Do 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 do. No, I won't. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but that's a lesson in regeneration. But now
It is. Yeah.
but now now you're
Up
upping
sticks and
sticks.
moving, hopefully, well, fingers crossed, to Wales.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the idea.
And that's because
Well, Marge and I, we don't really want to live in a house. We've been looking at petrol stations, libraries, anything, and we've settled on this chapel in North Wales, and it's huge. In fact, the main hall is slightly smaller than this, only slightly, but it has another hall which will do for my studio. And I just can't wait to get there to be able to do some wonderful creative stuff. Yeah.
and what next then? What do you want to do next?
Well, I want to sort of. Well, this is it. I really want to embed the studio and us into a community that, without sounding patronising, that could do with a bit of help. We both know, we've seen it, Hoxton, Margate, Brighton, way back in the day, where creative people start the upward spiral of a town, and it's fascinating and absolutely incredible, and that's people don't realise what art at school and creative subjects at school are so important. Yes, yeah.
There's no other kind of regeneration that works.
No.
There never has been.
No.
You cannot find. You can throw all the money you like at a city and a town, but if it's not done with the creative people handling it and dealing with it, and there's not the chance for creatives to be it never works. It's just money squandered. And while I'm so glad you've come onto that subject.
Yeah.
I wasn't going to come onto it, but I would just like to thank Blackburn as a council for totally getting that.
Yeah.
And getting it for a long time, and it's not just the Festival of Making, the National Festival of Making. Let's call it what it is. They're doing so much more than that. Hidden things that I'm not going to go on about here, but that we should, as a town, be so proud about. So before we give a round of applause to Keith, let's give a round of applause to Blackburn.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And for once, a council recognising that that's the way to do it. We're going to finish off. First of all, many thanks.
Cheers, lovey.
Yeah.
Cheers. Thank you. Cheers.
And then for those of you that haven't seen the Adele moment,
Okay.
I think we're gonna play it. Turn it loud.
There's a fire starting in my kiln, hotter than that pottery scene in that Patrick Swayze film. Since you left, it's just been me and my despair. I've tried to fill the hole you left with a lot of earthenware. See all the things that I made just for you. Don't underestimate the lengths I will go to. I hope my works of clay would melt your heart of steel and convince you to take one more spin on this old potter's wheel. Jugs, mugs, bowls, plates, all from my soulmate. If you just stayed, then you could have had it all. I hope in your pain you think of my porcelain and remember you could have had it all. Rolling clay with Keith.
Not much longer.
I offered you my heart on a plate, but you paid me back with grief. Go ahead and mark my crockery, but baby, you'll be sorry that you ever messed with me. I made these plates for you to show what's in my heart, but if you don't like them, back to IKEA. I can't quell my ardor, my clay's getting harder. If I make you stay, then we can have it all. In the depths of your misery, look at my pottery and think to yourself, you could have had it all. Rolling clay with Keith, I offered you my heart on a plate, but you paid me back with grief. Could have had it all. Throwing clay with me, but now you're back for good, and you'll never ever leave.
Nice. Yeah. There we go. Cheers. Thanks a lot.
Oh, hang on. We're being told Q&A now.
Okay.
Oh, and before I forget, stay stood up. The Makers Market, so all around here, staying open for 20 minutes. And these are a first-time maker. What's your name, mate? Oh, I can't hear. He's there anyway. Goldfinch. That handsome young chap back there has made these, and they're all for sale.
They're lovely, aren't they? Yeah, they're lovely. Yeah.
What?
5 minutes.
Q&A.
Right, okay. Yeah.
Right, Q&A. I think Mike's... somebody put their hand up.
Anyone, any questions? Oh,
So
right.
there's a chap there gone up first with the glasses on.
You mentioned that you are do a lot of your work now in China. There's Xinjiang and there's Guangzhou as main places. Which one do you prefer?
Oh, I see. Yeah. Well, Xinjiang obviously is incredibly famous for its porcelain. But I go to a place called Chaozhou, which is basically the Stoke-on-Trent of China. Xinjiang is more high-end, I think. But because of the clay in China, it's a hard-paste porcelain. And so when we make stuff, we only fire it once. It's all raw-fired. So it cuts down completely on emissions. We don't have to biscuit fire it. It's really weird stuff. But when it dries, it's rock hard. So we only have to fire it once. Yeah, it's fantastic, yeah.
This chap down the front here.
Hello, buddy. Hello, Keith. How you doing?
Yeah, good.
My wife, who should have been here, is not well today, so I'm an interloper. I'm not a crafter, I'm afraid, to say I'm a writer.
Right.
So I can only apologise. But she's jaded. What would you say to an artist or a crafter who doesn't believe in their work anymore and really wants to restart? Is there any advice for both of you could give?
You know what?
Please.
You know what? There's one bit of advice that I would give any maker and any artist. Don't sell your own work. Get someone else to sell it. Because you're so invested in the work itself. That's maybe the fashion industry, clothing might be slightly different, but not selling your own work, getting someone else that you trust and who loves your work to sell it, absolutely. The minute Dom my business partner, when I first met him, I'm going to swear a bit now, but he met me at a trade fair, and he came up to me and he said, he's a toff, by the way. He's posher than Prince William, for God's sake. Yeah. He said, I really like what you do, Keith. It's great. You know, these words on these mugs. It's brilliant. And then he stopped for a minute and he paused. And he looked around at me. He said, now listen, mate. I haven't got any design sense whatsoever. I'm even colourblind, for fuck's sake. Why don't you do the pots and I'll do the pennies? And that's how it works. He sells the work and I make it. And I remember we were 5 years into our partnership and we still hadn't even signed a formal contract. And I remember him turning around to me at a trade fair, said, "Look, I haven't got a problem with anything you want to make and design. I just have to finance it, and that was it.
And-
And it's that wonderful connection that you can have. Yeah.
And there's another thing, you've got to put yourself out there.
Yeah.
There's something in your book about, you wrote to Heels.
Yes, I did.
They didn't come to you.
No.
And
No.
just going back to, Geraldine had the guts, left school at 15, lived in Burnley, left school at 15, not much older than that, to rent a place in Kensington Market next to Boy George, next to all these people, and make clothing and have the guts to do it and sell it and get out there. You can't, and then you've got to get yourself out there, but then also you've got to market yourself. You can't be a shrinking violet.
No.
People things don't find you.
Feel the fear and do it anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One more question.
Yeah.
This is for Wayne. First of all, Wayne, welcome back to Blackburn. Good to see you here. Always good to hear about what you're doing for the town. I just wondered what your relationship with Blackburn is these days. How often you get back, and any thoughts?
How often do I get back? Probably about 3 or 4 times a year. It's been a lot. It's been more than that recently because we designed a housing. Hemingway designed a housing estate here, so we've been more. What do I think about it? I think it's a town with real opportunity, but it's got to make the right decisions. What it can't do is just let developers walk over it, because of it. It's got a lot of space. The town, you only have to look out where the markets were and where Thwaites were, and I just hope the council are brave with that and don't just allow the new generation of Morrisons to come along and create another blank wall like they did, like they did down there, and do something. Be brave like cities like Norwich are being, and be ground up.
Yeah.
Blackburn is in a lucky position because, as a diverse town with a new generation, a diverse generation we're through the problems. Integration is happening. You can see it, and the future is of a multi-generational, multi-background town that this can be a model. And the thing is, the leadership here is great. And obviously, but leaders change, but if we can have leaders like we've got now here, as I see it at a bit of a distance, and the next generation can follow on like that, then I think this town's got a big chance. There's obviously challenges, but we've been told to stop unless there's one lady with a hand up. Can we have one more? Yeah, go on. Yeah.
I was just interested in what you were saying about giving something back to the community of your plans to move to Wales, because one of the things I run a ceramic studio in Pendle, and I'd love to do a lot more for young people, and it's really challenging because things like rents and the cost of accommodation and stuff like that is really, for a studio space, for a larger studio space. I'm just wondering what your idea is and what your model is of giving something back to the community. I'm just really interested in how you're thinking of developing that, what ideas you've got.
Well,
for that.
basically, we've got to get in there first, and then the studio's big enough to have a kind of use it as a community hub. But straight away, I'm going to have to start employing assistants within the studio because it's bloody massive, and from there on. As Wayne has said, everything has to start from the ground up. And what you want to do in a place like Blackburn or whatever is not leave anyone behind. You don't want to get to a stage where it's an us and them. You want to take the whole community with you, and it has to be inclusive. And I'm not someone who I'll talk to anyone, and I love the diversity of the characters and people in any town. Absolutely love it. That's one of the reasons why we moved to Margate. So yeah, you have to take people with you straight away, and you can't go into especially me, tosser off the telly. You can't move into a small town with this kind of big I am ego. No. You can't do that. You have to respect the people of the town and understand what they want you to do, really. Yeah. I mean, that's one of the first things I'll say. What do you want me to do? And then and take it from there. Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. Thank you.
Cheers. Thanks a lot. Cheers, lovely. Yeah. Yeah, great. Thanks a lot.
Make him try.